Before I share my story, I need you to do something for me. If you've ever had that one family member who turns every gathering into their personal drama show, hit that like button. And if you're still healing from narcissistic abuse, please share this video. Your support helps other survivors find their voice. Trust me, by the end of this story, you'll understand why karma always finds its way. My name is Pixel, and for 5 years, I lived in a nightmare orchestrated by my Aunt Diana. I'm 33 now, living in Peoria, but this story starts when I was 28, fresh out of a toxic relationship, vulnerable, and desperately seeking family support. That's when Diana swooped in like a vulture disguising itself as a guardian angel. The narcissistic individual can be anyone in the family, but is generally an adult such as a grandparent. This person often has traits of or has been diagnosed with narcissistic personality disorder, NPD. Diana fit this description perfectly, though no one in our family dared to name it. She had this uncanny ability to sense vulnerability. When I moved back to Peoria after my breakup, she immediately positioned herself as my savior. She'd show up uninvited, rearranging my apartment, criticizing my choices, always with that sickeningly sweet smile that never reached her eyes. The pattern started small. Family dinners became interrogations. Pixel still single, she'd announce to everyone, then launch into theories about what was wrong with me. Birthday parties transformed into stages for her theatrical emotional breakdowns. My cousin's wedding? She wore white and sobbed through the vows, claiming she was too sensitive for such beautiful moments. But it was my grandmother's 80th birthday that showed me her true nature. I'd spent weeks planning the perfect surprise party, coordinating with family from across the country, booking grandma's favorite restaurant, even tracking down her childhood friend from Jacksonville who hadn't visited in decades. Diana arrived 2 hours late, drunk, and announced she was getting divorced. She wasn't. She then accused me of deliberately planning the party to upstage her own announcement. Often the spouse or children of a narcissist may feel intense anxiety about keeping the parent happy so the parent doesn't deprive them of what they need or disown them. They may become codependent, trying to please their parent, giving up their own sense of autonomy. This perfectly described how our entire family tiptoed around Diana. The chaos escalated at every family event. Christmas 2021, she accidentally knocked over the tree, claiming I'd placed it specifically to trigger her allergies. Easter 2022, she called the police saying I'd stolen her purse, it was in her car. My promotion celebration, she announced she had cancer, she didn't, and needed everyone's immediate attention and financial support. What should be a nurturing and loving structure intended to raise healthy children, instead becomes a source of narcissistic supply. In such a family, the needs of the narcissist outweigh those of everyone else. Diana had turned our entire extended family into her personal theater troupe. What Diana didn't know, what nobody knew, was that I'd been documenting everything. Every outburst, every lie, every manipulative text message. But more importantly, I'd been secretly attending therapy and practicing EMDR, eye movement desensitization and reprocessing, treatment for my trauma. EMDR is a mental health therapy method. EMDR treats mental health conditions that happen because of memories from traumatic events in your past. It's best known for its role in treating post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD. Dr. Sarah Chen, my therapist in Peoria, had introduced me to this technique after recognizing my complex PTSD symptoms. Twice a week, I'd sit in her office, following her finger movements while processing the trauma Diana and others had inflicted. It was grueling work, but transformative. Through therapy, I discovered something that changed everything. My late grandfather had left me a trust fund that was supposed to activate on my 35th birthday. The amount? $5.1 million. But there was a catch: if I was deemed mentally incompetent before then, the money would go to the next of kin. Guess who that was? Dear Aunt Diana. Suddenly, 5 years of systematic abuse made perfect sense. Every public humiliation, every attempt to make me look unstable, it was all calculated. She'd been trying to build a case for my incompetence, gathering witnesses at every family event where she'd pushed me to the breaking point. I found the documents hidden in a safety deposit box my mother had mentioned before she passed. Along with the trust papers were letters from my grandfather expressing his concerns about Diana's troubling behavior and his hope that the money would give me the freedom to live authentically, away from toxic influences. 24 randomized controlled trials report that EMDR therapy has a positive effect on the treatment of emotional trauma and other traumatic life experiences. My healing journey wasn't just helping me survive Diana's abuse, it was giving me the strength to fight back. I started recording our interactions. Illinois is a two-party consent state for recordings, but I could document everything in writing immediately after it happened. I created detailed logs with dates, times, witnesses, and exact quotes. I also started therapy with a second therapist who specialized in forensic psychology, ensuring I had professional documentation of my mental competence and the abuse I was enduring. The breaking point came on July 4, 2024, at our family's annual reunion. Diana had outdone herself in preparation, telling everyone I'd been acting strange and suggesting they should watch me carefully. The event was held at Millennium Park in Peoria, with about 94 family members and friends present. Diana had strategically invited her therapist friend, Dr. Marcus Webb, who later lost his license for unethical conduct, positioning him as a concerned professional who just happened to be at a family gathering. Halfway through the celebration, Diana orchestrated her masterpiece. She'd hired an actor to pose as a process server, delivering fake legal documents claiming I was being sued for harassment. As I stood there, confused and humiliated in front of everyone, she rushed forward playing the concerned aunt. "This is what I was worried about," she cried, addressing the crowd. "Pixel's been spiraling for months. Dr. Webb, you're seeing this, right? We need to get her help immediately. I'm willing to take responsibility for her care." But Diana had made a crucial mistake. The fake documents included real case numbers stolen from actual court records. I recognized one immediately because I'd been following local news. It was from a high-profile case in Jacksonville where a woman named Margaret Chen had successfully sued her narcissistic family member for intentional infliction of emotional distress. I pulled out my phone and, with shaking hands, looked up the case. "Interesting," I said, loud enough for everyone to hear. "These documents reference Chen vs. Chen, case number 2023 CF004892 from Jacksonville, Florida. The Melting Pot restaurant in Jacksonville was actually where the incident took place." "Aunt Diana, how did you get confidential court documents from Florida?" The color drained from her face. "Also interesting," I continued, my voice growing stronger, "is that Dr. Webb here isn't licensed to practice psychology in Illinois. I checked after you mentioned he was coming. His license was revoked in Indiana 2 years ago for boundary violations." The crowd went silent. Diana tried to recover, claiming I was having a paranoid episode, but I was ready. "I have something to share with everyone," I announced. For the past 5 years, I'd documented every instance of Aunt Diana's behavior. I have 247 pages of detailed incidents, 1,459 text messages, and 82 emails. I also have medical records from 2 licensed therapists confirming that I'm of sound mind and have been receiving treatment for the trauma inflicted by a family member. That night, after the disastrous reunion, I sat in my apartment with my best friend Sarah and my cousin James, who'd secretly been on my side all along. We mapped out a strategic plan that would expose Diana completely while protecting me legally. First, I hired attorney Michelle Rodriguez, who specialized in cases involving financial elder abuse and inheritance fraud. She immediately filed for a restraining order and began preparing a civil lawsuit for intentional infliction of emotional distress, defamation, and attempted fraud. As mentioned on the Reddit community raised by narcissists, documentation is everything when dealing with narcissistic abuse. I had 5 years' worth. We discovered Diana had been planting seeds about my instability with other family members for years, but she'd been sloppy. She'd sent emails from her work computer at the real estate office where she was employed, using company time to orchestrate her campaign against me. She'd also used her company credit card to pay the actor who'd served the fake papers. Michelle subpoenaed Diana's financial records and found something shocking: she was $847,000 in debt. Failed business ventures, gambling debts, and a lifestyle she couldn't afford had left her desperate. The trust fund wasn't just a want, it was her only way out of financial ruin. We also discovered she'd been telling different lies to different people. To my uncle, she'd said I was bipolar. To my cousins, I had borderline personality disorder. To family friends, I was schizophrenic. The inconsistencies would be her downfall. I spent weeks preparing evidence packages for every family member. Each package contained a timeline of Diana's lies with contradictions highlighted, copies of her fraudulent documents with legal analysis, statements from my therapists about my mental health, character references from my employer, friends, and neighbors, a copy of grandfather's letter expressing his concerns about Diana. But the masterstroke was the video compilation. James, a film editor, helped me create a 20-minute video showing Diana's patterns. We had footage from family events showing her creating chaos, followed by her social media posts from the same days claiming to be the victim. The contrast was damning. On August 15, 2024, exactly 1 month before my 33rd birthday, we executed the plan. At 9 a.m., Michelle filed the lawsuit against Diana for $2.3 million in damages. At 9:15 a.m., Diana's employer received a package documenting her misuse of company resources. At 9:30 a.m., every family member received their evidence package via certified mail. But the real bomb dropped at 10 a.m. I posted the video compilation on TikTok with the title 5 Years of Narcissistic Abuse. My ad tried to steal my inheritance. Within hours, it had 100,000 views. By evening, it hit 1 million. The comment section exploded with similar stories. People started sharing their own experiences with narcissistic aunts and toxic family members. Diana called me 47 times that day. I didn't answer once. Instead, I was at my lawyer's office, watching as her world crumbled in real time. Her employer fired her by noon. The real estate board launched an investigation by 2 p.m. By 4 p.m., 3 of her creditors had called Michelle's office, wanting to know about the lawsuit and whether they could file liens against any potential settlements. The local news picked up the story after the TikTok went viral. Peoria woman's inheritance battle goes viral, a cautionary tale of family fraud, read the headline. Diana tried to do damage control, calling the news station claiming I was lying, but they'd already fact-checked my evidence. Her interview only made things worse. She contradicted herself 3 times in 5 minutes. That evening, I received a call from my 75-year-old great-aunt Patricia, the matriarch of our family. "Pixel," she said, "I've been blind. We all have. Diana's been poisoning this family for years, and we let her. I'm calling a family meeting. Without her." The family meeting happened 3 days later. For the first time in 5 years, I told my story without interruption, without gaslighting, without Diana's theatrical diversions. Several family members cried. My uncle apologized for believing Diana's lies. My cousins admitted they'd suspected something but hadn't known how to help. But Diana's fall was far from over. The criminal investigation revealed she'd committed identity theft, using my social security number to open credit cards. She'd also been embezzling from her elderly clients at the real estate firm. The FBI got involved when they discovered she'd been running a romance scam targeting widowed men in Florida, using fake profiles and sob stories eerily similar to the lies she'd told about me. Her husband, who'd been living in willful ignorance, filed for divorce when he discovered she'd remortgaged their house 3 times without his knowledge. Her daughter, my cousin Melissa, came forward with her own stories of manipulation and abuse, adding her testimony to my lawsuit. The TikTok video hit 28 million views. Messages poured in from around the world, survivors of narcissistic abuse thanking me for giving them hope, therapists asking to use my story in their practice, and lawyers offering pro bono support for other victims. With an estimated 5% of the U.S. population having narcissistic personality disorder, representing over 16 million people, my story had touched a nerve. Diana tried one last manipulation, a suicide threat posted on Facebook, blaming me for destroying her life. But even this backfired. Someone screenshot her posting selfies at a casino an hour later. The post became another viral moment, with mental health advocates using it to demonstrate how narcissists weaponize suicide threats. On September 15, 2024, my 33rd birthday, I woke up free. The restraining order meant Diana couldn't come within 1,000 feet of me. The criminal charges meant she was facing potential prison time. The civil lawsuit was moving forward, with my lawyers confident of a significant settlement. But the best gift came from an unexpected source. The viral video had caught the attention of a publisher who wanted me to write a book about surviving narcissistic abuse. The advance? $250,000. I didn't need it, the trust fund would be mine in 2 years, but I accepted because I wanted to help others. I started a nonprofit called Phoenix Rising for survivors of narcissistic family abuse. Using my therapy experience with EMDR, we partnered with therapists to provide free or low-cost treatment for those who couldn't afford it. The Department of Veterans Affairs and Department of Defense list EMDR as a best practice for treating PTSD, and we wanted to make it accessible to everyone. 6 months later, Diana was convicted on multiple charges: fraud, identity theft, embezzlement, and harassment. She received 7 years in prison with mandatory psychiatric treatment. At the sentencing, she still tried to play the victim, but the judge, having reviewed all the evidence, called her a calculated predator who weaponized family bonds for personal gain. The day of her sentencing, I received a letter from her daughter Melissa: "Thank you for being brave enough to stand up to her. You didn't just save yourself, you saved all of us who were too scared or too deep in the fog to see clearly." My 35th birthday is approaching now. The trust fund, all $5.1 million of it, will soon be mine. But I've already received the greatest wealth imaginable: my freedom, my sanity, and my voice. I still attend therapy. I still have bad days. The trauma doesn't magically disappear. But I've learned that healing isn't about forgetting, it's about reclaiming your narrative. To anyone reading this who's trapped in a narcissistic family system, document everything. Seek professional help. Trust your instincts. And remember, you're not crazy, you're not overreacting, and you're not alone. Diana thought she could destroy me to steal my inheritance. Instead, she taught me my greatest lesson: sometimes the best revenge isn't just living well, it's exposing the truth and letting karma handle the rest. My name is Pixel. I'm 33 years old. I survived 5 years of narcissistic abuse. And I won. Final scene: I'm standing at the opening ceremony of Phoenix Rising's first dedicated treatment center in Peoria. The building? It's Diana's former real estate office, which I purchased at auction. The ultimate poetic justice.